Steven Spielberg.
All right, what's up, you mad bastards? Welcome to the Alkaline podcast, episode 28. My name is Riggs, coming at you on today. It's raining outside, so that can only mean one thing. It is February. That means January is over, the worst month of the year, traditionally. How was your dry January? Are you wet now? Wet as fuck? Put down that gin and listen to what I have to say. I've got a beard against my will. I've always been staunchly anti-facial hair. I like to look like a small teenage boy at all times. But a couple of weeks ago, I thought he had a bathroom ghost because my electronic toothbrush has started going mental and just kept turning itself on and off. I mean, turns out it was more of a technical issue than a paranormal issue. But nonetheless, I had to leave a gig early because Thighs was a bit too scared to be at home with just her and the haunted toothbrush. But it seems to have the toothbrush possession seems to have ended around about the time the toothbrush ran out of battery. But on that very same day, my electric razor stopped having the ability to cut hair. So now it's just what can only be described as, I suppose, it still turns on. So it can be just sort of a really sort of ill-advised kind of vibrator. I suppose you could turn it around. Don't ever go in blade end. I mean, it doesn't cut hair, but it fucking might cut vagina. So just watch out for that. Or go in base first. It takes batteries, so it hasn't got like you don't have to start with a plug and then just slowly sort of wind the lead in like you were some sort of feminine tow truck. But yeah, this is I always like to start off with what you can alternative vibrator ideas. So I had a mad fucking weekend. Friday night I was off. From gigging, didn't have a gig. So I said at home, I was like, I'll catch up on some like current films and that. So what I do, right, because I've got my self-diagnosed OCD, I go onto the DVD chart website and I just watch them in order of whatever, I've got to stay current. You've got to stay topical in this world. You've got to stay ahead of the game. So I downloaded Rambo Last Blood and It Chapter 2. Rambo is the film that I watched on Friday night. I haven't seen Rambo First Blood, but you get like Vietnam sort of vibes about it. I mean, Rambo himself lives on this ranch. So spoiler alert, if you are going to watch this film, you probably aren't the kind of person who would probably listen to this anyway. Even though I have watched it, but because I didn't watch it because I'm an action film fan. I like traditionally, as I hate beards, I also dislike action films as a rule. But I do like The Last Action Hero, and in fact, I wanted to get a little target tattooed on my eyeball when I was a child. Turns out, you have to have your parents' supervision, and my parents, there's only certain things that they would supervise, and eyeball tattoos for a 10-year-old child wasn't one of them. So I had to, it's annoying, but I had to just sort of give in and be like, fine, I won't get an eyeball tattoo. How do you expect me to face my friends now looking with just sort of bare ass, sort of lame eyeballs? Do you know what I mean? Turns out the guy in the film had a glass eye, so I would have looked like a bit of a knob if I had blinded myself with a target, which is traditionally used to help you sort of see stuff at a distance with a little target. And ironically, I would have blinded myself by getting a target tattooed onto my eye. So I didn't get that. So I like The Last Action Hero, and then I've watched Rambo now. So there must be something about. I only like a lead character who has just a very basic grasp of the English language. I had to turn on the subtitles. Oh yeah, another thing is because we downloaded the film, half the film is in like sort of Spanish, sort of Mexican. So we just sort of had to guess what was going on, all the gangstery parts of it. But so Rambo lives on this ranch now, but I guess it's like Vietnam-ish because he's built like a sort of a fritzely sort of layer underneath his underneath his house, or winding tunnels, and that's kind of maybe he was like what I don't know if you've know much about the Vietnam War, but there used to be an American squad called, I think they were called Tunnel Rats or something like that, and they would crawl into these holes and sort of crawl around looking for Vietnamese people to, I guess, stab in the head, whilst also trying to avoid being stabbed in the head. And I thought my job was sometimes annoying. Oh no, I've got to cook some pasta for some children. Oh no, I've been stabbed in the head in a sort of underground tube by the Viet Cong. Cong? Right, I don't know, is it Viet Cong or Viet Cong? I always get confused. I always say yin and yang. And it's yin and yang, or jin and jang. Do you know what I mean? It's not ging and gang. Is it? What am I talking about? I don't know. But anyway, the only way I can sort of describe Rambo Last Blood, and I have a bit of a problem with the name to begin with, because First Blood is like the first Rambo film. He's going to do his first bit of killing. It's also a saying, like, First Blood. Do you know what I mean? The first one. But Last Blood is sort of a bit shit in it. Rambo Last Blood is a bit shit. Especially if they end up making another one. It'll be like one of those bands that are always doing their last ever tour to sell tickets. And then they're like, oh, we're back. Hey, Motley Crue, I thought you fucking died in the mid-90s. Oh, no, Nicky Sixx did keep dying. But, he just had some unfinished business to do. Oh, what was that? The God was like, Nicky, you can't die because you still haven't done the Red, White and Crew tour. Do you know what I mean? You've got to stay alive for people to just sort of forgive Vince Neil for killing that fucking guy from Rat in that fucking drunk driving thing that happened in LA back in the past. Don't know if you've seen The Dirt. Machine Gun Kelly plays Tommy Lee, which is it's Tommy Lee minus the sort of hepatitis, but with added, I did a rap battle with Eminem, and that was the biggest point of my career, like he said in that diss track, and then he sort of since disappeared. Or I've disappeared because he could be massive and I could live in a sort of Viet Cong style tunnel system of not knowing anything about popular culture. But I would describe, if you're going to watch it, I could give you the spoilers and you could be like, that is what I assumed was going to happen anyway in Rambo. So there's probably, I say spoiler alert, but probably just, if you're going to watch it, probably watch it anyway. Because, but basically, it's Mexican Taken. His daughter wants to fight. Rambo's not her dad, all right? But he's bloody trying his hardest. Do you know what I mean? And real dad's not paying the CSA. Rambo's got it all covered. Don't know what his job is. They're like, we'll just give you money for being Rambo, because he's got a ranch, no animals. Oh, he does ride around on a horse, but that's not a job, is it? Having and riding a horse isn't a job. But he's got no cattle or anything. He's constantly doing manly shit at the start of the film. He's digging his tunnels. He's riding around bareback on a horse. And then at one point he's doing some mechanics. And that I'm never gonna be Rambo. I just don't have. I took a couple of spiders out of the house in a glass, which I think is growth, but probably not manly enough to be Rambo yet. He's got a leathery. Stallone isn't looking well. Do you remember when Stallone's mum was on Celebrity Big Brother? And I used to think, she clearly has got a lot of plastic surgery done. But Stallone is starting to look an awful lot like his mum. So maybe it's like a natural. Maybe that's just how the Stallones grow up. Do you know what I mean? The Stallones just become like leathery sort of guys. When I was saying this to Thighs, and she was like, "Of course he's had some work done," and I was like, "Well, why is he finished there? Why is that? Why has he stopped? He clearly he's mid-op, and he's like, shit, the doctor, man, I've got to go. I'm filming Rambo Last Blood." But anyway, so his daughter's like, "I'm gonna go and find my real dad." Rambo and Mrs. Rambo, I forgot her name, but sort of long-suffering Mrs. Rambo is like, "You can't go to Mexico to find your dad. And then the next day, she's like, "I see you in a bit." And they're like, "Where you going?" He's like, "Just going to drive my car. I've got this big bag, but I'm not going to Mexico to see my dad." And then they're like, "All right, as long as you're not going to Mexico to see your dad." And lo and behold, she goes to Mexico to see her dad, and she gets sort of Cosby'd in this bar. Her dad doesn't give a fuck. He's like, "I don't know why you're here. Do you know what I mean? If I wanted to parent you, I would parent you, but I'm living in Mexico." So she's like, "Oh, fuck." And her mate who lives in Mexico is like, "Let's just go clubbing to get over the fact that your dad doesn't like her." And then she gets a bit Cosby'd and then sold into the slave trade. Sex trades. She's a sex slave in the sex trade. And then Rambo's like, "All right, do you know what? I think she's gone to Mexico." And then he goes. And do you remember that film, Michael Caine film, where he just goes and kills loads of chavs? I can't remember what that's called. Top Gun. No, Top Boy. Something involving an underpass. But Michael Caine, it was basically that, but Mexican taken. I've made my own trailer for Rambo Last Blood. So bear with me 1 second. I'm just got to turn on my little speaker. Yeah, so I spent quite a long time making this trailer for Rambo. Okay, you ready? So, coming soon to theaters near you. He's Sylvester Stallone, starring in Rambo Last Blood.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for a ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
Good luck.
Y vámonos pa' Guadalajara, al tequila y a las tortas ahogadas, sí señor. Ay, 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 ay.
Okay. Was that a good idea? Yeah, man. But get your tickets now. Rambo Last Blood. By the way, if any of you guys need a trailer making, I will make a trailer for you too. As long as it's a bit like another film, and I can play Mexican music over the top. Maybe we should have more I want to see the Mexican Little Mermaid. I'll see Mexican Bambi. They're not just Disney ones, mate. Mexican Titanic, Mexican Ratatouille. It's not Ratatouille. He's just, making some fajitas or whatever. Mexican Saving Private Ryan. They're just not there. They just there's no Mexicans. Mexican Forrest Gump. Mexican. You've got Mexican Mail. Which is basically say any film, put the word Mexican in. So I watched that, and to be honest, that trailer was the main reason why I wanted to say it. On a Saturday night, I went and did a gig at Stanley Football Club, which was fine, man. It was good. Got a lot of people after the set coming up to me saying it was good, and that I've had better sets because they were quite lively, they were quite like football, a bit laddish sort of crowd, and that. And I've got some quite maybe surreal bits. If you've heard some of them before, I try and explain why I don't think centaurs might be real. I try and find out if there's anyone called Susan. Do you know what I mean? That's that sort of thing. So it was an okay set, but after me, there's a crawly lad called Josh Mays, right? And I've been gigging with him since he started, probably about a year and a half ago when he started, and he's just killing it. He's just when you meet someone that just fucking got it straight away. So if you fucking, if you like fucking stand-up comedy at open mic level, who doesn't? Do you know what I mean? Who fucking doesn't? then fucking just fucking have a little look on YouTube. I'm sure he's got something on YouTube. I don't know if he does, but you know, fucking check out Josh Mays, mate. He's gonna be a fucking absolute killer. On the 11th of Feb, he's in the Comedian New Act final. So if you're in Brighton, get down there. I think it's sold out, so fuck you anyway. You can't go, but you should be on top of this anyway, mate. Do you know what I mean? And it's not my fault that you're not. Sunday, mate. Sunday. I did a gig in a casino, right? And it was the most unplayable gig that I've ever had to do. And I'm coming up, I'm like, what's the date today? It's the 3rd, so I'm like 7 days away from my like 3rd anniversary of doing comedy. And I've done all kinds of gigs. I've done gigs in packed bars. Like I did a gig in the corner of a Weatherspoons once. I've done gigs in like community sort of centers and things like that. But but they've all been like, you can kind of, at least there's some people watching or whatever. But this gig, I'll tell you, like, it was in the middle of a casino. The lineup was actually really good. The opening, like Claire Jarvis was MC. She's quite new, but she did her best with what was going on. There's Phil Simon. He's there. He's fucking Peppa Pig's dad. Do you know what I mean? So now I've gigged with within the last sort of year, within the last sort of football season. I gigged with Dave Benson Phillips from the Play Bus, Tinky Winky from the Saturday Night Live. From the Teletubbies, and I've gigged with Peppa Pig's dad. So that's. If I died now, I would just be happy knowing that I've with such stalwarts of sort of British children's TV without even coming into contact with anything to do with Mr. Blobby, Noel Edmonds, or Jimmy fucking Savile. Do you know what I mean? He's doing all right, mate. He's fucking doing all right. He opened, Phil Simon, very funny guy. He opened up, headlining was Jenny Collier. She's got a blue tick next to her name, and you know how important that is, don't you? If you go on like Twitter or Facebook, there's a blue tick there, meaning that she definitely is Jenny Collier. I'm pretty sure she's been on like live at the Apollo or whatever. So, you know, it's a fucking decent lineup. So the stage is in the middle of a casino, not in a different room. Not and not advertised. It's like and then to the right of the stage there is 2 really long tables at the shuffleboard, which is like indoor tabletop curling. You throw a little thing down and then it goes down. People do, and then you've just got to try and not be shit at it. And I think that's the rule of shuffleboard. So there's a few lads. There's quite a big group of lads playing shuffleboard. In front of the stage. There's 2 giant pool tables which have got signs on saying that while the comedy's on, no one can play pool. But that means that no one can be near the stage because these 2 giant pool tables, right? Behind them, there's a few tables. On the first table, there is the act. There's Jenny and there's Phil and there's Claire and there's one of Claire's friends who's another open mic comic called Polly. She's come down to support. Thighs is there. When we first arrived, we had a little look around because I've never been in a casino before because I've got too many vices. Do you know what I mean? I'm addicted to fucking drinking and smoking and fucking crack. Do you know what I mean? Heroin. Do you know what I mean? And fucking shagging sheep and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, I can't. I drink about 25,000 cups of tea a day, but not at all different times. Just out of one giant sort of swimming pool of tea. I just swim around in that, and that's my caffeine fix. For the day. Do that every morning. I have an Olympic-sized swimming pool for tea in the back of my neighbour's house. He lets me use it. It's great. But I've never gone into a casino because I don't want to become addicted to that as well. So we had a little look around, and we saw a craps machine. And I think it's some sort of dice game, craps. It's a game of craps. And we thought it was funny. Do you know what I mean? It says craps on it, mate, in big red letters. So so I took a few pictures of that. There was a stool next to it, and the thighs was like, she had half a beer, mate. Do you know what I mean? She's uncontrollable, and she was like, I'm just gonna just take a picture of me next to the word craps. I was like, great. She sat in this stool, which turned out to have wheels on it. And then the fucking stool she just basically fell on her ass immediately. And it was amazing. And it sums up the whole fucking situation, right? So we're going down, right? So there's a table. It's got the acts on. And then there's a table next to the acts with some people having dinner. There's this sort of balding ginger guy. And then just sort of 5 Asian ladies of various sort of ages, and it seemed like they didn't really know each other. And when Phil was on stage, because he was the opening act, he was trying to work out what the sort of situation was, because he asked the guy, he was like, "What is going on here?" And he was like, "It's sort of a date," which kind of makes you think like escorts and that. But then am I just sort of kind of stereotyping sort of people from Asia, like do you know what I mean? Like people will say like Thai brides and all that sort of stuff, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because I don't know what the situation was. But he was being very coy about what everyone was doing there. And then to the left of the stage, that's the gambling bit. So there's like a giant poker table full of lads playing poker, not there to watch comedy. There's all these like roulette tables, blackjack tables, things like that. About 1 million staff members all milling about doing stuff. And then so there's a few people there, but they're all gambling, and nobody knows that this is going to happen, this comedy gig, right? So above the stage, there's these widescreen TVs. There's like 6 widescreen TVs going around in like a circle above my head. All of them have got a different sport on. Basketball, and there's one with golf, and there's one with American football on it, and all this sort of stuff. And then on the wall, is a giant screen which had sport on it, but then when the gig started, had just us, the view of the stage, so that if because everyone could hear us dying on our ass, but if they couldn't get a good view of it, then all they had to do was look at this giant screen and just watch all of our lives, just watch us all just melt inside and and just fucking die. And I knew it'd be quite bad. And when the guy, I'll tell you what the message said when I booked the gig, because we sort of knew what we were kind of getting ourselves like into. Do you know what I mean? So let me just go. Like the like on the stage there was like, it's called the surgery comedy. There was all these really nice like sort of backdrop things, and it was all looked professional. The only thing that was missing was just no one knew it was going to happen, and everyone just came there to gamble, and and I think I said at one point from the stage, like, imagine gambling and losing loads of money, and then just having this fucking northern guy behind you just trying to do a fucking impression of like a centaur. It's fucking unbelievable. But so it was like, just a heads up, this is the message, just a heads up regarding Sunday. This is a brand new venue which doesn't officially launch until February the 1st. This will not be a proper comedy club. Think a festival but with no kids. The MC will be running a night, and we're hopeful of an okay turnout. But so there was, as I say, there was people. There was definitely people, but none of them wanted to. They wanted to do gambling, which is why they came to the casino. If you feel like this is what you want to hear from a promoter. If you feel like this may not be the gig for you, please let me know now. What we cannot have is anyone refusing to go on because it's not right or they're not up for it on the night. And that is a red flag, isn't it? But as I said before, man, I've got this beard against my will. I can't afford to be. Do you know what I mean? I've got to take what I can get. You got to hustle, man. You got to make that green. You got to get that paper. And so I took the gig, and I knew it was going to be bad. I didn't quite know to the extent of sort of how funny it was. But the thing is, it turned out to be not that difficult, really. Like because dying when you were at like a gig where you're supposed to be there and people expect you to be funny and stuff, and they're coming to watch comedy, and you're not being very good at comedy. That's when you start to get like the sweats, and you start to like go into like fucking overdrive in your brain, and you start fucking garbling nonsense because you don't know what to do. That's like when you bomb, and that is awful. And then sometimes they can be so bad that you feel bad about it for just months afterwards. And then during my first year of comedy, like there was a period between September and sort of November where I just had this run of just dying, and it just and I was like, I'm never gonna get a laugh again. And then it gets good, but like that's kind of brutal. But this was like so difficult. I don't know. Sorry, I just heard some voices. Maybe it's the toothbrush ghost is back. But this one was so difficult that it's sort of I couldn't get any worse. For example, I've had a few financial issues, right? And then it gets to the point where things get so you end up being so sort of in debt that you sort of like, oh, I'm still alive. Do you know what I mean? After all this, I'm still alive. So you sort of like, it sort of matters, but it's sort of like it's not important to your actual life. So it kind of felt a bit like that. You're like, this is unplayable. There's no way that this can be good. Therefore, it's not going to affect me mentally like it would if I was, say, like at the Comedy Store and then just dying and then being heckled and people being like, you're fucking shit or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. I mean, it's not because the people at the gig didn't heckle us or they weren't annoyed by us or anything like that. It's just that they completely ignored us. Apart from this table of Asian people, man, I'm going to get to that. I've got a recording of the gig, and I will play it to you. But I have not listened to it yet. I've sent it to a few people, and the feedback I'm getting is it's a pretty iconic recording. And I thought it might be fun to sort of listen to it back together. And we can do a sort of like the needle drop style review of the set, if you will. So I'm quite a new comic. As I said, I've only been coming to like my third year. But Peppa Pig's dad and Phil Simon and Jenny Collier are like the real fucking deal, man. They're like proper pro comics. This is their job, and obviously Peppa Pig's dad's job is also to be a parent to Peppa Pig. Do you know what I mean? And I think he works in a cartoon office. If I got my Peppa Pig facts right, which God willing I have. But when I saw Phil Simon on stage, he was like, he barely managed to get a joke out. He was sort of interacting with this sort of Asian sort of whatever the fuck was going on over there. And I was like, well, if he can't just go out and just try and get his set out, then there's not much hope for me. So I've just got to just do my best, I suppose. So anyway, let's have a little go on this. This is the gig yesterday night. Hang on, there's been an error. Let's see. I'm going to go to Dropbox, click on this, click on my gig list, go all the way down to the bottom. This is gig number 477. Cheers, guys. First of all, that sound quality just shows you how big this room is. It's like we're doing a gig at a fucking regatta gala. Not regatta, because that's boats, but a swimming gala. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like you're like, hello, how's it going? And then Tom Daly does a fucking triple backflip off the back of the off the back of some, I don't know about the back, but off some fucking diving board. There's some fucking guys doing the butterfly. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so it's my turn. Now, how are you doing? You alright? You've been spoken to a lot. Is there anything that I didn't cover? You guys are playing a game I've never seen before in my life. You're a blackjack player. He's obviously shuffling his cards.
So straight out of the gate, because Phil Simon had tried to talk to this table of this ginger guy and these Asian sort of people. Next to me was a blackjack dealer, and he didn't have anyone at his table, and he was just sort of shuffling his cards in a really fancy way, like across the table. He was doing all this fancy shuffling. So I was like, "How's it going?" Got to that guy. Turns out, I didn't know this. People who work in casinos, they're like supposed to be like machines. Like he wasn't allowed to sort of interact with me, and he just sort of. And he just sort of kept just looking at me and just being like no with his like eyes and hands, no. So I was like, okay. So it turns out that I was just trying to interact with a guy who wasn't even allowed to talk to me.
My name's Rick. I'm from the north. I moved down to Brighton to better my life. It's working out well for me. I got a new job, which is finding people who are losing money and then just being really loud and naughty near them. Sorry? You say Donald Trump?
And as you can see, this is the crazy Asian lady who she is going to get out of hand in a bit, but you can tell how far away she was, that she was heckling me, and I couldn't even work out what she was saying, because she was like two professional-sized pool tables away, was the only audience members, and she was shouting something, and I just couldn't work it out. I'm sorry about the sound quality of this, by the way. My phone was right next to me, and this is how cavernous the room was. It was like a gambling warehouse, and we were just in it.
Making what? Making sure. No, I've got to do a certain amount of time. Because I'm not actually a stand-up comedian. What happened is I lost too much money here last weekend, and it made me do this for 15 minutes to pay it back. Because even this is washing up. It's quite cool. I've never been in a casino before. It's a surgery for some reason. Not entirely sure why. It's called the surgery, but it is. Laughter is the best medicine. Which is obviously, unless you're sick, do then take medicine, because it is better than diet. That is actually quite a cool thing.
So, what I've tried to do there is I've tried to make a few jokes about the situation. Be like, I'm sure what everyone needs is me doing this when they're trying to gamble, losing money. I tried to make a joke saying, I'm not really a stand-up comedian. What's happened is I've lost a bunch of money, and they've said, like, to pay us back, you've got to do stand-up next here. Hilarious, as you can see, absolutely killing with everyone. And then I've just noticed myself bombing. The first time this has ever happened to me is I turned around, and I'm on the fucking screen, and I can see myself just fucking bombing my fucking teats off me. Absolutely dying.
I'm going to hide from myself over here. That's cool. It's good, this, man. It's good. It's quite a lot of effort being put into this bit of the gig. Do you know what I mean? If this was anywhere else, it'd be really, really good, wouldn't it? There's a lot of staff on here. It's quite an unnerving amount of people working at this casino. It's like there's something about to happen, and it's going to involve me somehow. Do I work here? Am I a member of casino staff?
So at one point, there was just these waves of just people dressed as casino workers, or I guess because they are casino workers, but there was just loads of them. There was just like a group of 10 would walk past, and then a group of fucking 10 would walk past the other way, and I'm like, why is there so many people working here? It's insane. And it turned that they did actually have a separate room, but they said we couldn't use it. They said, no, the comedy must happen here. And there's a gig I don't know if it runs anymore, but there was sort of kind of an unplayable gig in Brighton at the Lion and Lobster, which was set up by Steve Coulson, but I did MC the first one, which actually was okay. And then the lady asked me if I wanted to take it on, and I didn't want to because they had a whole separate upstairs room, and they were like, no, we just like the ambience of it being down in the bar. And though it is one of the busiest pubs in Brighton, so it was just rammed full of people who weren't there to watch comedy. And like this gig was the same. Do you know what I mean? It was just full of people. But as you can see, there's so much background noise going on. It's like insane. But no one knew it was going on at all. It's mental. And this is only 2 minutes in, and by this point, I'm already like, what? I've tried. As I say, I've come out. I think I've tried to make 4 jokes so far in 2 minutes about the sort of room, just to sort of nothing. Sorry, I've just got to reload the file. Shit. This is the point in time where I wish I fucking edited this shit, right? I'm going to have to reload it again. Sorry, everyone.
Sorry, I can't hear you over the stand. Am I a member of Casino Stand? Anyway, I'm sorry, I've got to keep talking. Because if I stop talking, I'm just a man. I'm just a man.
See, that got a little bit of a response from the people. There was these shuffleboard people playing next to us, and I'd never seen shuffleboard before, man. And they were sort of kept looking at me like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I was like, "Dude, I just have to be talking. If I'm not talking, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who's just stood on a plinth." Do you know what I mean? Because at the moment, like, yeah, as long as I've got a microphone and I'm talking, I'm doing my fucking job. Do you know what I mean? And so.
Hey, that's cool. Are you drinking really large glasses of gin? What? Sing? I moved to Brighton to do a music degree, but I can see a bit.
That was my first attempt to try and go into actual material. The woman at the one of the Asian ladies was basically just shouting "sing" at me. And I was like, oh, because I've got a few jokes about going to music college. So I was like, oh, maybe I will go, oh, singing, I used to go to music college and that. And then I was going to go into that sort of material. This is my first, two and a bit minutes in, this is my first attempt at getting into material.
Sorry, I can't hear you over the sounds of... Take my coat off.
Right, and now... as I was trying to go into the material, they were just kept shouting just stuff, like just as you might have been able to hear it. I couldn't make any of it out, but they were just at me, just shouting shit. And I was like, what's going on? And then they told me to either sing or strip, it turns out at the end, because the people, so sort of the comedy table told me what they were saying afterwards, but because they were so far away, I couldn't work out what was going on at all. So at this point they're shouting, sing or strip.
So that's all. So I will. If that's what the crowd wants, then I was going to save this to the end as the finale. But I suppose we can do it now. Anything else? Socks? Shirt? What about the shirt? This is my favourite shirt. It's my best shirt. Yeah.
And then that's me. They're telling me to strip. And to be honest, I give the people what they want. I started fucking stripping. I should have put on some fucking but then I've also got material about my shirt, so I was like, oh cool, so I've abandoned the university material because the people I was talking to were shouting at me, so now I'm going to attempt to get into my shirt material.
My pants and my boxers will keep the top half on. Brian, what are they saying?
At that point, I just said to thighs, I was like, what are they? I just couldn't make it out. I was like, if you're going to... Well, I think I could say it in a minute, but one of the fundamentals of interacting with hecklers is you've got to be able to hear what the heckler's saying. Otherwise, it's like, comedian attempts to shut down illegible heckler. It's just like, what? And then it gets like 1 million hits on YouTube.
So, is this enough? Am I dressed appropriately enough? Can I play blackjack from here? No.
I just tried to interact with the blackjack guy again. Asked him if I could do a little game of blackjack from the stage. He was like, "No, no, you can't. You've got to suffer. By you got to suffer the stand-up comedy." Is what he's saying.
It's not, they're not allowed to talk, I think, with lines. Sorry? This isn't the only time that I've ever died. I got declared dead by the government.
And now I'm going into a complete... So I've started the university material, abandoned it. Started the shirt material, but then they weren't happy with me stripping at just the jacket, so abandoned that. Now I'm going into the material about being declared dead, which if you listen to other episodes, I put that on other recordings that I put on to show you. But no, so this is my third attempt to go into material. By the way, constantly being heckled by this table. Constantly, that hasn't stopped.
This is like in 2010, I sent me this letter. So, you know, I'm used to this situation. I don't know what to do better. I always wondered how I was going to die. Right, but I never thought it'd be because of an administration error. That's a joke. Sorry? You might have to come a bit closer. I can't hear what you say. Is that gin? You're drinking gin?
I don't know why I'm desperately trying to... So they're just heckling me and I can't hear them. And as you can see, I did the joke, I did the got to the punchline of that one, just zero response. And then I was just desperately trying to just interact with something in a two-way conversational sort of way, not just having them shout at me and me be like, what? So I just was like, what drink is it? They clearly had glasses of gin. I just wanted them to be like, yeah, it's gin. I don't even know what I would have said after that. I just wanted to have some semblance of interaction with anyone about anything. Because the blackjack guy couldn't fucking talk to me. He was like, every time I was like, there's a guy doing blackjack. And he was like, no. And I was like, can I play blackjack? No. So it was just fucking crazy. It felt like I was up there. So I was like, just what? Tell me what you're fucking drinking. Jesus. All right. And then I looked down at my watch and this is like, and I'm like, oh God, how long have I been on stage for? And it was like, not even at fucking 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? It was like, and I've got like, and I'm like, I'm obliged to do 15 minutes here, lads.
How come you guys aren't gambling?
I'm not gambling.
You don't gamble? You come here for this? Yeah? I gamble with my time. That's what I'm doing now.
Now I think that is the best joke of my set. So like, it's gonna be the best joke that I'd say, because I don't gamble. As I said before, I've got too many vices. I don't gamble, apart from the gamble with my time, because sometimes I go to crazy stand-up comedy gigs, and that was this. I think that's the best joke of the set so far. I'm gonna hazard. I wasn't gonna say that. Not the best joke of the night, because I'll tell you about Jenny's set after this, but...
Is that gin? You're drinking gin? How come you guys aren't gambling?
I'm not gambling.
You don't gamble? You come here for this? Yeah? I gamble with my time. That's what I'm doing now. It's alright, there's not too much you can say about the room. How are you guys doing over there? You alright? She's fine.
At that point, right, when I said, how are you guys doing over there, there was this lady working behind the bar, and I said, how are you doing? I pointed at her, and she just put her head in her hands. She just looked at me, just put her head in her hands. And I was like, that's how I feel, mate! That's how I fucking feel! But I've got to carry on being hilarious. Don't mind me. Just to try to talk to everyone in the room. Just going to carry on being hilarious.
Do you guys live in Brighton?
Back to the Asians again.
Yeah, man. It's quite nice in Brighton. I always think I moved to Brighton to seem quite safe, like a friendly place. So I think so. In my opinion, anywhere with a annual naked bike ride is not going to be a rough place to live, is it? Yeah! That was a joke. Well,
That's great. Right, that's five minutes, third of the set in. I said a joke. It's my naked bike ride joke. It's been in my set for probably a year, maybe a bit longer, maybe 2 years. And 5 minutes in, that is the first genuine laugh at a thing that I've said that I've wanted to say. Isn't that hilarious? 5 minutes in, mate.
Darlington up north, you've been up north. You see a naked guy in a bike where I'm from, someone has stolen that guy's clothes. And then a naked man, I'm determined to do some jokes. I'm doing some. Don't be like that. Yeah, man, it's cool. It's good. Sorry, don't worry. Man, that's a third gun. That's not a lot. That's cool, man.
When you're sort of bombing like this, time just sort of... I was watching this thing about black holes the other day, and it was like, you wouldn't know about it, right? But if you got sucked into a black hole, time would go fine for you. But if you were like somehow watching somebody get sucked into a black hole, and you were still able to see him because it fucks about with the light, so apparently the person would be invisible anyway. But if you could see him, you would see that person fall into a black hole forever, right? And then if you were the guy falling into the black hole, when you were looking out past the event horizon, you would see the entire history of the universe till the end of the universe in that last second before you got fucking spaghetti-fied by a black hole. And that's kind of a bit like what bombing feels like. Bombing like this. And this is fucking bombing hard, mate. I've got one genuine laugh out of fucking 5.5 minutes. And I'm looking at myself falling into a black hole just seemingly forever. Like, for the person falling into the hole, it's over in a second, but for the person watching, they're like, fuck, that guy's fucked. That guy's fucked until the end of time. Christ.
I'm going to do an impression of something. Right, so I've been thinking a lot about babies, human babies, right? You'll like this. I know you're not allowed to talk to me, but you'll like this, right? Because when babies, I'm going to talk to you in when babies...
So by this point, I've decided that I've got to talk to someone else apart from this group of fucking women, because they're just being so like nonsensical. So I was like, I know this blackjack guy can't talk to me, but what he wants, whilst he's waiting for someone to come and play blackjack, is me to do a centaur impression, right? On the way back home, Thighs was like, "Why out of all your material did you choose to do the centaur bit? Because it's quite surreal and it wasn't room for it." And I was like, did you hear my attempts to do any of my other more normal jokes before? I tried to do jokes about Brighton. I tried to do jokes about my fucking death letter. I tried to do jokes about my fucking shirt. I tried to do jokes about going to university. No dice. And that, by the way, is an excellent casino pun. But I'm such a fucking wanker. But I was like, dude, I know you can't fucking... And he, to be fair, he was sort of like laughing. He was like, all right, because I was being a bit of a silly knob, right? But he was laughing. He wasn't allowed to. I think they've got to be quite stoic, stony-faced and that, but I think I got him.
Like they can't do anything. Right? But when other animals are born, they can't. Like horses, horses, they have just born like a horse. Right, so I think about this. Well, I think centaurs. Okay. I just think that they're really likely creatures. Because whenever you see a film, like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, or another film with centaurs, I think film I've ever seen. They won't be in the world to make it to a film, but in reality, if that centaur only made it 8 months, the back half's like a fully formed horse. I don't know.
Oh, sorry, I've had a little malfunction again. But as you can see, there was a couple of laughs, but that was from the comedians table. The comedians table.
Little creatures. They can, like horses. So what did you buy? The back half's a fully formed horse. With the front half is barely even a toddler. What are they? I'm just telling you about. So I've got some children. I've got 2 kids.
Alright,
the
so
back half's like a fully formed horse.
Alright, I'll go from here.
I don't know. The back half's a fully formed horse. With the front half is barely even a toddler. So I think it's just sort of crawling around in the front. I'm just telling you about. So I've got some children. I've got 2 kids.
Right, so the people who were like so I look over and this group of Asian ladies are just staring at me like, what the fuck's going on? And I was like, you don't know what a centaur is. Which is fine. They don't think they cover it in English language school, do you know what I mean? It's not their fault for not knowing what a centaur is. None of this is their fault, man. We're all in it together by this point. But I was just like, yeah, so centaurs, and I've got some children. It's completely out of the blue, just segueing into an attempt at another bit of material. See, I'm trying. One thing that you can say about this is I am fucking trying, mate. I'm trying to get a rise out of someone somewhere.
I've left them at home to come to this. On their own. They're not old enough, but, you know, they're important things to do. I've got 2 children, yeah. What are they? I've got a boy and a girl. Is that what you asked? Yeah, I've got a girl called Sydney, she's 11. I made a mistake with her. That sounds really bad. But when she was like 3, she stole a condom.
I didn't mean by the way, just a little caveat. I said in there I made a mistake with her, but it was I don't mean the fact that she's here. Just want to clarify that. I've never set up a joke like that before, and in my head I was like, "Whoop, that sounds really bad." What I meant to say was the bit that I'm going to go on to say was I made a mistake by allowing her to do a bit of shoplifting. So just if you're listening, that isn't what I meant, and that's no wait, that's not what I'm talking about.
You want to be a double act?
I want to talk.
This is part of it. What do you want?
I want to speak with
Right now, at this point, the lady that you've been at here. Oh shit! Sorry, I fucking shat myself. Then that was my alarm telling me that my boiler was hot enough for a bath. I thought there was someone behind me. Maybe the toothbrush ghost. But oh my god, I'm actually quite scared. But so at this point, the lady that's been shouting at me the whole time has now got up, walked past the 2 professional-sized, Olympic-sized pool tables, and she's just approaching the stage. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's going, give me the thing. And then she wants me to give her the mic, right? And I'm like, I can't do that. So this is where it's about to get crazy.
Yeah?
I want to do comedy.
Yeah, you want to. We have to talk to Claire. She's the organiser. Over there with the rest. Maybe she'll put you on. We've got for next month or whatever. It's monthly. Every 2 weeks. Cool, man. Look. All right.
So you hear that? She was like, I want to do comedy. And I was like, let me be the first one to tell you that if you want to do comedy, this is not the situation to do it for the first ever time.
You go, what's up? Oh yeah, remember all the streets, she's all the colander from Tesco's. I saw I didn't stop her. Because, hey, don't start throwing ice at me. I did a gig at Vodka Reds a couple of weeks ago, someone started launching ice at me. So
she's coming at me now, and she said from the back, like, I want to do comedy. And we've been like, no. And we've been like, as a joke, like, maybe sign up for the next one. Now she's approaching me with a glass. And do you remember a couple of episodes ago, there was that gig I did at Vodka Revs, which I thought was possibly one of the hardest gigs that I've had to do. Obviously not knowing that this one was around the corner. But in that gig, someone was just hurling ice at me. So that's why I'm making a reference to something that they did. Obviously, they didn't know. Maybe at the back of my mind, I knew that we'd be talking about this gig together. So maybe this bit, maybe I was saying that for you guys, but...
Quite good so far. You should coat. What's in there?
Be careful. I really understand English very good now.
You don't?
Yeah, very good understanding.
Right, it's all right. I'm
You
from
can't
Yorkshire,
talk
so
bad
you
about
probably
me.
understand English better than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got quite a good grasp of the English language. I'd say I came down into the music degree. You should get up there, aren't you? Right, now she's climbing onto stage. Did you see that? I tried to just completely do a complete turnaround of my set, and I've gone back to my first jokes. I don't know what I'm doing at this point, but this little Asian lady is climbing onto the stage now. And at one point, in a minute, she's going to be directly standing next to me. I like there's so many staff with like zero security.
No, sorry. I'm not allowed to. It's insurance.
Okay.
Insurance law.
And that's Claire, the MC, has gone. I've said, look, why is there's so many people working here, but no one's stopping this from happening? And that just shows how little attention anyone is paying to anything that is going on. Do you know what I mean? This crazy lady who's been drinking giant gins have just climbed on stage. She could have been packing, mate. She could have had a fucking rocket launcher for all they cared, mate. There's no one was there. So that's when Claire came and was like, no, can't. It's an insurance. It's insurance. For insurance. The insurance probably doesn't cover me either, but they don't care about me. They just leave me alone.
Right, so thank you.
Well, I used to be getting ice thrown at me. Bonus. It's good, man. It's got eerily quiet in here. I like the way everyone jumped to my defence there. Cheers, Claire. Right, he'll switch to Claire Motley. He's a person. I don't know. What sport's on there? Basketball? Nice. Golf? Cool. Now, at this point, it's completely thrown me that her getting on stage. I sort of don't want to talk to her anymore because it's kind of getting a bit aggressive. And so now I'm talking to the comics about what TV's being played. Can I get a copy of this? And then I asked for a copy of the big screen. I wanted to be like, what I need to do is preserve this death forever. Yeah, man, so I covered the centaurs, talked to all the kids a bit. Oh yeah, you ever seen The Lion King? Sorry? The problem with being echoed is how you want to go out and hear them. I don't know what you said. I've seen The Lion King. The film, The Lion King. You love it. My daughter was in the school play of The Lion King. It was very good, right? But do you know Mufasa? Right, at this point, I was trying to do another bit of material. I was like, I've got to do something now. So I just got this bit about the Lion King, but Mufasa was Northern, then I do an impression of Northern Mufasa, and it normally does alright again. It's quite a silly little bit. Alright, but I said to her, do you know the Lion King? She was like, yeah, I love the Lion King. And I was like, yeah, me too. My daughter was a school play. This is like really sort of bastardized kind of version of the bit because I'm just saying, I don't know, because I'm in no control of what's coming out of my mouth at this point. And I said, you know Mufasa? And she was like, yeah, that's my second home. And I was like, what? But then I realized she's answering when I asked like 8 minutes ago, I was like, you guys from Brighton? She's answering that question 8 minutes later. That's insane. She's like, yeah, it's my second home. And I was like, what? I didn't make a connection at the time that she was talking about Brighton. And I was like, that isn't anything to do with what I'm talking about. Oh, fuck. That's fucking hell. I don't know why I just keep doing it. I think my computer's full of fucking shit, mate. Hang on. We're almost done anyway. I do. It was very good, right? But do you know Mufasa?
Yeah, it's my second one.
Well, in the school play, Mufasa was Northern. And it just made it loads better. I think it's improvement. You say Mufasa was her second home? That's amazing. Man, that's cool, man. He's my third favourite lion. Mufasa, Aslan, and the one from the start films. That's the top one. There you go, big pop right off the top of my head there. Is that inspiring? Because that's quite a terrifying fashion thing. No guts, no glory.
I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's good, this. Huh? I'm alright. I'm good, man.
Now, at that point, Claire was like, you can go if you want. And I didn't know because I've always heard from like doing comedy podcasts and stuff because I'm only like just breaking into doing like more paid work sort of now, more paid weekend work and that, like this fucking incredible gig. And I thought you were like, you have to do is your time. When Jenny was on stage, she did less time, and then she said it's, and she was like, it's commendable that you, when she said you could go, you were like, no, I'm gonna, I'm fine, I'll do my time. And I was like, oh, it might have seemed commendable, but I didn't know you could go. I didn't know you could leave. If I know you could leave, dude, I would have gone like 5 minutes ago.
Okay, you're looking very disappointed in me. Is it because your comedy career didn't get started? No. To be honest, this isn't where you want to do your first thing.
And now that lady who got on stage with me is like, and tried to grab the mic, by the way, and I had to like hold the mic like away from her. Like she tried to grab the mic. She's gone back. She's got a full on pout on, man, and she's like upset. And I was like, yo, is this because you couldn't do your first gig? Because yo, this isn't where you want to do your first gig, man.
You want to do your first gig, sort of,
Very for comment like that.
Yeah, cool, nice one. We talked about the Lion King. I'll tell you that when think about what it is.
No, maybe, I tell you what, everyone here nice and lovely. I love India. It's here in my second home.
Right, and this is another lady. This is the lady that said that Mufasa was her second home. Now she's come over to explain what she meant. I think now she's explaining. She's talking about Brighton, and she likes it.
Oh, this is your second home. Okay,
Yeah, my third home. You might pick me out at third home.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's cool, man. This is your second home.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We should,
So
after this, want to do a bit of
What?
gambling?
Already done.
You already done it? How did it go? Did you win?
Yeah, I already have a goal, but
Yeah?
secret. I don't tell you this or this. But it's very nice.
What did you play? Did you play poker after this?
No, I'm crazy with slot machine.
Huh?
I'm crazy with slot machine.
Oh, the slot machine.
Yeah, over 10 years. I never looked at that. So, what do you like to play? What do you like to play?
Me, what do I like to play? I've never been gambling. I've got too many other vices. I drink a lot of tea.
Can you give me some invite? But I love India. What can I do?
If you want me to give you something to work with, that's hilarious. This role's completely reversed in this situation.
I love
You got to
India.
give me anything to work with.
It's funny, man, because she was like, she's heckling me. Right, so this is a different lady. She walks up to the stage. She's talking about how much she likes Brighton, she did a bit of gambling, just having a chat, basically. I'm like, oh, cool, do you want to do a bit of gambling? She was like, no. and then she was like, you're not giving me very much to work with. And I was like, but what? Like, you're not giving me anything to work with, and I'm the one who traditionally in this situation needs things to work with. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, am I sort of heckling you too much to this lady? Like, I'm the one in the fucking it's just off this madness, mate.
It's alright, my
I mean, you can see you.
At this point, I'm a broken person.
It's unbelievable. My time's almost up. It's incredible, isn't it? It's cool. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's my time.
Ladies and gentlemen, wait! Thank you so much.
That's it, dude. That's gig 490. There's 447, man, in the fucking bank. Right. We're gonna call it in a second. I'm just gonna fucking put on the little fucking A little fucking musical bed. What we're gonna have. All right, man. So thanks for listening to the Alkaline Podcast. This is the podcast. My name is Riggs. This is the podcast where I try and get clean or die trying. At the moment, I'm alive. Sober time is reading 1 day, 15 hours, 30 minutes, and 6 seconds. I know that's not the high as it should be, but unfortunately, I had a little slip up on Saturday night. But we're all right. We're okay. Gonna do a few plugs. I'm at the Comedia 3 times this month, man. I'm at the Comedia tomorrow for the last heat of the new act competition. It's the semi-finals of that. I'm with some. I don't expect much to happen. I'm with some fucking absolute killers, man. Michael Akadiri's there, Martin Durkoff, and that. So we're just gonna go and have fun at the Comedia. That's cool, man. On the 11th, if I get to the final or not, I'll be doing the Comedia final on the 11th. If I don't get through, then I'm going to be in London doing Comedy Gobbledygook, which is Quen Wen's night in, I think, Bermondsey. So if you're around there, come to that. My own new material nights at the Verdict on the 12th. Natural Born Killers. The lineup's full. If you're a comedian listening to this and you haven't signed up, then it might be a bit too late. But if you're an audience member, you want to come down and watch some stand-up comedy, man, you want to heckle me about living inside Mufasa or whatever, then fucking just completely free entry. So come down, have a laugh with us. It'll be sweet. On the 13th, I'm doing a gig called Comedy Remedy, which is in Uckfield. So if you happen to be in Uckfield listening to this like a crazy person, I know one guy called Jake. If you listen to this, Jake, come down to Uckfield Comedy Remedy. I'm not sure on the venue, but I'm sure that if you just type in comedy in Uckfield, it'd be the only thing that's happening. But I'm looking forward to that. That's run by Simon Harriott, a guy I've known from the open mic circuit for a while. On the 15th, there's a lot of new material nights in between this, but you don't need to come to those because I always write very questionable jokes, and most of them don't get into the set. Right, if you're around on Saturday the 15th, I'm at the Carolina Brunswick, a new night set up by my friends Alice India and Catherine Atkinson. That's more of a pro sort of weekendy sort of thing. The Carolina Brunswick is one of the most famous, one of the most sort of the well-known sort of Brighton comedy venues. So come and check that out. On the 19th, this is a good one. I'm back at the Comedia again. I'm hosting Stand Up and Slam. I think my mate Billy Stone is on the comedy team. That's comedians versus poets. I've done it once before and it was amazing. And it's sort of like a bit like a panel, a bit kind of like Mock the Week. Jared, a bit where they do that like things you wouldn't hear in a fucking morgue or whatever, and then people come out and do jokes or whatever. It's a bit like that. Comedians versus poets. So that's on the 19th, Wednesday the 19th of Feb at the Comedia in the Studio Bar. And then it's the Verdict Comedy Club on the 20th. I'm going to be in Portsmouth opening a different gig. But down in Brighton, we've got an absolutely sick lineup, man, of all my of some of my best friends in comedy, man, and they're all hilarious. As I said before, my boy Josh Mays is down, the guy that I was talking about before. You should get down and watch him. My friend Jen, who I also do the Dumb Debate Society podcast with, is headlining it. She's fucking unbelievable. So, you've got Mason, you've got Mustafa, you've got my friend Simone's coming down. There's Patrick Hoare, who's also doing that new acting tomorrow. Everyone's fucking great. There's one, my friend Kate McGann, who I did originally try to do my first ever podcast, which I did was called the Ginterviews. We were just going to drink loads of gin and do an interview, and we were going to do one a month. And after the first one, we were like, we can never do this again. Like, it was fun, but we will die. So my friend Kate's coming down. 8 States of Kate, by the way, is it's a sellout run at Brighton Fringe. I think she's doing it again this year. She's doing it, I think, at the Vault. I think she's doing it down at Hastings Fringe. Check out Kate McGann, man. 21st on the Edge back at Carolina Brunswick, and then we've got a second show at Gotham, which is at the Caxton Arms, run by Ben Carter. It's a flat earth comedy night. That's back by Popular Man. 23rd of February, which is a Sunday. It's my first time at Crater, which is in the fucking main room, man. It's in the fucking and that is my first goal when I got into stand-up comedy was to play the main room of the big club in my hometown, which is Crater Comedy Night at Comedia. So that is happening this month on the 23rd, 20 days time. I can't fucking wait for that. And then apart from that, it's that's it for this month. Apart from all the new material things, so please come and check us out. Any of these venues. So this is the Alkaline Podcast. You can find it on Podbean or whatever. Like share it with your mates or whatever you think it's funny. Like show them this fucking clip of me fucking dying on my absolute tits. And then I've also got another podcast which I'm editing the next episode now, which is the Dumb Debate Society. Are bus drivers sexy? Turns out that they 100% are. My friend Jen, who I make that with, there's another podcast called The Genocides where she rides an exercise bike and does what I'm kind of doing here, which is just talking absolute shit. But it's very funny. So check that out on a Podbean. It's called Genocides, which is really hard not to say genocide, but I didn't. So yeah, thanks for listening to the Alkaline podcast, man. That's been it for me. Come back next fucking week. Well, just fucking subscribe to this. It'll be in your feed next week. We'll find out all what's happened in the week. Anyway, wash your fucking beards, ugly cunts. See ya on the flip side, dog.